Good morning. No props today. How are you guys today? Good. Y'all ready for, I guess school started back, right? This week? Yeah. Sunday school starts next week. We'll get right back into the flow of things, right? Yeah. Good deal. All right. So I have something this morning. I'm going to have just a phrase. I want you all to think, if something comes to mind, tell me what you think it is, okay? It was a dark and stormy night. A story? Does anybody know who might have made, is that like bring to mind anybody? Like a character?
Snoopy.
Huh? So let me ask the congregation. It was a dark and stormy night. What does that bring to mind? Snoopy? Did I hear somebody say Snoopy? I think I heard.
I think I know what the stuff.
You think so? So it was a dark and stormy night. So Snoopy is from the comic strip or from the comic thing, Peanuts, right? Which was Charlie Brown and his friends and all a bunch of activities and stories they got into. And Charles Schulz is the man who was the originator and wrote this. And I think it's being still continued, but I'm not sure. I didn't do that research. But there's lots of things you may have seen that he did. There's a Charlie Brown Christmas. There's a special. You might have seen that. There's something called The Great Pumpkin, which is a story of them. There's a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. So there were shows. There were comic strips. You all know what comic strips are? Do you all still? I know it's hard. Yes, that used to be my favorite part of the Sunday paper. There were 3 pages of just comics, and you could read those, right? But so Charles Schulz, and one thing I wanted to talk about. So real quick, back to Charlie Brown's Christmas. Charles Schulz, that was the very first kind of animated TV special, and he was very strong in his beliefs that it should actually talk about the story of Christmas. And he had to fight the sponsors. Coca-Cola was the sponsor, big sponsor, but he had parts of it. He really insisted. And there was one part that was really important that Coca-Cola said, you can't do this. It was in part of it. He had Linus, who was one of the characters, actually read the story from the Gospel of Luke, read the story of Christmas. So I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, back to Snoopy. Snoopy is a character. He's actually Charlie Brown's dog. He has a very vivid imagination. Sometimes in the comic strips or on the TV shows, he's like a fighter pilot sitting on the top of his doghouse, and he's fighting the Red Baron. It's like World War II. There's actually a song, if you go out and look there's a song about that, and they play it a lot of times at Christmas. Sometimes he was Joe Cool, a real cool college student. You know, he's wearing the sunglasses and all that. A lot of the times, though, he is this budding author. Okay, he's sitting on the top of his doghouse. He's got a typewriter, and they always show the caption over his head. It starts off every one with "It was a dark and stormy night." So Charles Schulz took that. Actually, there was an actual novel written called Paul Clifford, and that line became writers started making fun of it because it was just really was not very good writing. Okay, there's actually an annual contest now. They call it the name of the writer. I don't have his name here, but there's a contest, and the authors are challenged to write the worst opening line ever, and whoever does wins a prize. So anyway, it was a dark and stormy night. So in today's gospel, unlike the picture that we saw, it was a dark and stormy night, right? Any of you ever been outside during a storm? Thunder, lightning? Probably inside. Have you been outside, caught in one? Yeah. Okay, that's kind of scary, right? Think about this. Have you ever been on a very small boat, like little boat, not great big boat where you can go inside? Just everything's outside, and the waves are a little really high, and the wind is blowing, and the thunder and lightning. Well, that's what the disciples were doing, and it must have been really scary, right? I mean, as we heard, they were very scared. But so Jesus had sent them across. He had gone up to the mountain to pray. It was very late. Some of the Gospels even talk about it being in what they call the fourth watch, which is 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. So really dark, okay? So they're out there, they're scared, and suddenly out in the distance, they're 3 or 4 miles from land. They feel like if they go overboard, they're going to have a hard time getting to shore. But they see Jesus walking on the water. I mean, how can that be? That defies all the laws of gravity and physics as we know it, right? It's another one of the miracles, that Jesus was able to do that. And Peter, when he calls out to them, do not be afraid. I'm here. This is me. It's Jesus. Don't be afraid. And Peter kind of asked him a question. It kind of like a little bit like questioning him. Well, Jesus, if it's really you, tell me to come to you and I will. So Jesus says, Peter, come to me. So Peter, focused on Jesus, gets out of the boat and is walking on the water. But then what happens? he gets distracted by the wind, he turns his head and sees, wait a minute, I'm out here in the middle of the water. I'm not standing on anything. I'm scared. And he immediately begins to sink, right? So he cries out for Jesus to save him. And Jesus does what? He immediately reaches out his hand and he saves him, right? So I think for us today, for you all, and for everybody, there's a couple of things we can take away from this. Hopefully I'm not stepping on Pastor's sermon. I don't think I am. I looked at his title. In the storms we face today, and we face all kinds of storms today, scary things, right? Situations we don't know about, new situations, things we can't control. But in the storms we face today, Jesus is always there, and he was reaching out his hand for us, and he will be there for us to save us, okay? In turn, Jesus also wants us to do that in his place for other people. So he wants you all to, in your day-to-day life, to be a reaching hand out for someone who needs help. And for you guys, some of the things you can do, especially now school starting, maybe there's a new kid at school, just saying hi to them, offering them a kind word. Maybe sit with them at lunch, right? Maybe you can do your chores at home without being asked. That's something you could do to kind of reach out and help. Be nice to your brother or sister, all those types of things, okay? So are there ways that we can reach out and do the same thing? We can imitate what Jesus does for us, okay? All right, will you guys pray with me? Will you all repeat after me? I forgot to say that last week. Dear God, thank you for loving us. Thank you for helping us when we are scared like Peter. Show us how we can help others like you help us. Amen. All right. No choices again today, but everybody, you all can each take two. I've got